This is a Tracking the Tropics update with a certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Hi there, friends. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta with the latest update here at 11 o'clock. This just came out from the National Hurricane Center on Tropical Storm Melissa. As always, what we try to do here is give you the latest information. No hype. Don't get paid extra to kind of talk more about what's happening here or emphasize or hype things up. But I do want to share some facts with you. And this is expected to become a major hurricane. Major being a Cat 3 or higher and slowly moving off the coast of Jamaica. And this is going to be problematic because we got several days right along the island here where this could be a 3, 4, and even some models indicate it becoming a Cat 5 there before running over Jamaica and eventually heading out towards southeastern areas of Cuba, where, of course, our friends in Cuba are going to be impacted. But a lot of you who are watching this are likely American, do want to mention, especially if you have connections to Jacksonville, Guantanamo Bay, which is a Navy base, is likely going to be kind of in the right front quadrant of this, and they're going to be impacted as well. So Tropical Storm Melissa, as of the 11 o'clock update, it is moving slow. Southeast, technically, it's kind of lumbering in the same spot at only 2 miles per hour. Pressure's down to 1,001 millibars. Winds are at 45, which I find surprising given that the hurricane hunters are actually flying through it right now. And they picked up a wind of 55 miles per hour near that center. That might be reflected in the next update that comes out at 2 o'clock. For now, though, yeah, you can see this moving off towards the west. Expected to rapidly intensify as we go ahead through the week, and it's going to escape a bit of shear here and move into an area where we have very warm sea surface temperatures. The shear will be reduced, good outflow aloft. These are all just factors that are going to indicate some intensification coming out of this. So right now, like I said, the hurricane hunters are flying through it. We basically got continuous observations inside of it. And this is something, if you're in the Atlantic, you got to be happy about. I've seen other basins where you don't really get these pressure readings. You don't get these wind speeds as the storm is over the ocean because, there's a lot of countries that just can't afford to fly hurricane hunters into the heart of a storm, although they would love to. But here in the Atlantic, we have this very vital tool that not only gives us the initialization data, but all that gets ingested into numerical models and hopefully helps make some much more accurate, especially in a storm like this that is combating multiple factors, including that shear passing trough towards north, kind of making the forecast a little bit uncertain. But today, the confidence on said forecast has been increasing. So let's take a look actually at the outlook from the National Hurricane Center here. And this is the arrival of tropical storm strength winds. And I really want to show this graphic because you see how from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday here, like the lines are almost on top of each other. This is going to be a slow mover drifting towards the west. And that really, when it boils down to impacts from the storm system, is one of the big catalysts for just I'm going to say it, the devastating amount of rainfall we could be seeing with this. Some areas could see feet of precipitation, especially across parts of Jamaica. Everywhere here I need to update this scale because everywhere here in the yellow indicates 9 to 10 inches or higher. I mean, we thankfully don't see any white in there, which would indicate 25 inches. But at least through Wednesday, there's spots you could see well over a foot of rainfall. And I don't care where you are in the world, that is going to be damaging. The mountains that the global models don't have a good job picking up on, but mountains of Jamaica, parts of Haiti could see even more than that just because of that orographic lifting. You get a little bit of upslope enhancement, and that helps to squeeze out, kind of like wringing out a sponge and squeezing out the moisture from some of these systems. So yeah, that's the biggest issue I think that's going to be had with this. Of course, major hurricane off the coastline of Jamaica is not going to be great, but the flood threat, I believe, is going to be one of the major issues before this trends towards the north and also impacts Cuba. And also, by the way, the fact that the low-level center could just be hanging out off the coastline of Jamaica means that that core of the engine for this tropical system, what I mean by engine is that latent heat release. You get the moisture down near the surface, goes up aloft and outflow aloft. That's going to stay out over the warm waters, which just it's like fuel. You keep pumping the gasoline into the engine, it's going to keep it intensifying. If the low-level center crosses over Jamaica, bad news for Jamaica, but good overall because it will weaken it a little bit. But not worth. It's a no-win situation here. Hopefully, shear kind of acts on it enough where it keeps it somewhat weaker, but I think once that shear escapes, this is going to be a serious storm for our friends out there. Taking a look actually at the warnings here. Hurricane warnings now in place for Kingston and also over towards Haiti as well. Yeah, that's no surprise. I mean, this is going to be I'm actually a little surprised Haiti at this point, but they could get some of the outer fringes of this as it kicks around off towards the west. I'm actually just trying to pull up some of our social medias, by the way. If you're watching on any of our social media platforms and you want to share, some of the latest, some questions on what's going on out here, maybe impacts on Florida or anything like that, please do. And I'll try my best to get to them here in just a moment. But let's get back to our forecast. And, well, actually, let's take a look at some of the models here. This is the ECMWF guidance, kind of showing this drift slowly off towards the west. And I think this model has the best handle on this. Even our in-house model kind of shows it a little bit further towards the east. But the ECMWF, as well as the Google DeepMind, we don't have access to display that here. It's still an experimental model. It shows something very similar, just drifting south of Jamaica and then just kind of rapidly intensifying in those very warm waters. Before we get an area of low pressure, you can kind of see it right over Florida. That low, which is going to bring some messy weather to northeast Florida and southeast Georgia on Monday, is going to move off to the east and kind of hook this. Think of a fish hook. So it's going to cast a line down. You can see that line right there. Watch as it moves towards the east. See that kind of band, a little bit of tail behind the low? That's going to hook this and pull it across Cuba, across the Turks and Caicos, parts of the Bahamas, and shoot it off towards the north based on everything we see right now. Now, granted, this is showing Friday, October 31st. That would be next Friday, 7 days from now. As we know, long-range guidance can sometimes be uncertain. But based on everything I see at this point, late next week, and including around Halloween, we're going to have this area off towards our east, a cold front kind of ushered down, pulling it along, and then cooler, drier air all across the southeast. So this storm may act as a catalyst for some rather frigid air to wrap up the month of October and head into November. I really, honestly, for Jacksonville and the First Coast, I'm not expecting whatsoever to come to our area. It's just a dynamic setting up with this. You have multiple passing troughs. You have the upper level winds across the southeast. It would be the equivalent to put it very simply in meteorological terms from somebody who's been doing this for decades, it would be the equivalent of water flowing uphill. Yeah, maybe in some weird way, wind could blow water up like a little bank or something like that, but 10 out of 10 times the water's going to flow down hills, right? So that's going to be the case with this. It's going to want to stay near that troughing and not head towards the high pressure ridge that is located over the south and east. And you can see that here with our ensembles, kind of giving you an idea of the GFS versus the ECMWF. You see how that lingers there. The GFS kicks it off towards north a little bit quicker. I'm leaning more towards the ECMWF is showing here. Lingering there as we go ahead through Thursday, and then by Friday, it kind of moves off towards the north and east. And then here's another look at our ensembles. This is the GFS versus the Euro. And, I showed you the operational models there. This is the deterministic, and basically this tells you, I showed you the deterministic. This is the ensemble. I'll get my words right. Fancy meteorological words for saying this one shows you confidence. And both of these guidances, all the different members, for example, the GFS, on their supercomputer that puts out these model runs, right? I'm showing you a little bit behind the scenes. They run the model 32 times, and then they average it together, and that's when we show you like the pretty map showing the future cast and all that. That's the average of those 32 members of that model. This is going to break down each one of those members in the end and kind of shows you confidence. And if you got the tight cluster, it really shows increasing confidence. And you can see just that tight cluster absolutely over Jamaica and then absolutely over eastern areas of Cuba. None of them except one model, maybe from the Euro, shows South Florida, but that's an error, probably. Each one of these model runs taking different factors. It must be taken in something extremely different. The confidence shows it further towards the east. So that's why I am confident it's not going to hit Florida. There's so many different factors here. I just want to stress that. I am confident, though, that it is moving over these warm sea surface temperatures. It is going into an area for intensification, and a Cat 4 for 24 to 48 hours, maybe even 72 hours, just off the coastline of Jamaica is bad news. And yeah, let's really just take a moment to just hope everyone's being safe and being smart out here. Hopefully the core of the storm stays offshore just enough. Remember, when we talk about winds, like here it says 145 miles per hour on Monday. When we talk about that, we're talking about the inner core, the inner eye wall of these tropical systems. It's not the whole cloud field. Granted, tropical storm strength winds and heavy rainfall. But let's hope that that inner core, the inner eye wall, does stay offshore, because this could be very devastating to some coastal communities if it just skirts the coastline with this. So, yeah, let's see if I got any questions on here. As always, I'm just trying to engage with y'all and get some more information on what's happening in your mind. I don't have any questions, at least at this point. But if you ever get any, send me a message. Robert Speta, rspeta at firstcoastnews.com, or you can find me on social media. It's pretty easy. You just say Redheaded Weatherman on social. I'm sure I'll pop up. Or you can look up Robert Speta. That'll probably be the easier way. All right. With that said, Melissa, okay? I do want to talk quickly about our local forecast across the First Coast in Jacksonville. So if you are not on the First Coast or Jacksonville, thanks for stopping by. This part's not for you, but you can keep watching. You can do what you want. All right, so Monday we have a weather impact alert in place. That's another thing that's not meant to hype. It's just to say that's probably going to be an impactful day on your day-to-day routine. For example, Monday morning, I got some scattered showers just around the morning commute. That is all due to this area of low pressure that's pushing on by, the same low I mentioned earlier that's going to hook the storm and pull it towards the north. Now, we do have a couple dry days behind that, lower dew points and high pressure builds in. That's going to cause some radiational cooling. Now, I'm going to point this out because I've seen some viral posts talking about bad air quality over Jacksonville. And it all boiled down to actually some erroneous malfunctions with some air quality sensors. And a few social media posts, I won't call anybody out, but they got like thousands of shares saying that people are urged to stay inside in Jacksonville. Sometimes sensors malfunction, and sometimes, like for example, our anemometers across the station, sometimes they'll show 100 mile per hour winds when it means 10. It's like a decimal point was misplaced. Same thing with temperatures, and sometimes the same thing with air quality. It doesn't mean somebody dropped the dirty bomb over the city, but this time of year, there is reason to believe that the air quality could go down because we do get these high pressures that cause an inversion. So you get that radiational cooling near the surface. The air cools quicker than the air aloft. So typically, if you have warmer air near the surface, the air is going to rise. But if you get an inversion set up, it all gets trapped near the surface and the air quality goes down. And that's why, we could have some moderate kind of poor air quality type setups over the upcoming days, especially when we get that high pressure ridge set up. But over the weekend, in fact, winds are going to pick up with that area of low pressure passing overhead, and that's going to disperse the inversion anyways. I wanted to address that. If you're kind of curious, if you're one of those people that's seen those thousands of shares about the bad air quality over Jacksonville, I'm here to tell you as a meteorologist, I saw people commenting on a few of them saying, I'm surprised. Why didn't anybody tell me? And I'm sitting here going, I'm surprised too. Why wasn't I told there's bad air quality? So anyways, yeah, just a little soapbox there. Not tropical related, but if you are watching out of Jacksonville, I just wanted to point that out. Anyways, I have to go to First Coast Living here in a moment, talking with them, and then I'm on First Coast News at noon as well. That's coming up in about 45 minutes. So a busy day here in the Weather Center, but always doing my best to keep you posted out here in the tropics. So I really, truly appreciate you stopping by and watching our little Talking Tropics segment here at 11 o'clock every day. We try our best to keep you updated and keep you informed, and that's the whole goal. That's why I get paid, right? So number one thing, though, is as always, thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, shoot me a message, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Have a great day.